Greetings and welcome once more to another episode of Sonic Odyssey, the music video channel dedicated to bringing you the last 5 decades or so of music in review and discussion format. Before we dive into today's topic, let's get the housekeeping out of the way quick and easy. Please be sure to like the video. That helps YouTube get it out to more people. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber, and you can also perhaps click the little bell icon if you so choose, and that'll alert you each time I post a new video. You can also share the video by social media networks. There are links for Facebook, Twitter, and many other social media networks available if you just click that share button. And finally, I would humbly ask you to consider visiting my Patreon page and taking a look at the different tiers that are available to help contribute to the channel and keep the channel going. You'll see a link right in the show description below, and I would greatly appreciate your patronage should you so choose to do so. Thank you very much, and that's the housekeeping out of the way. Now on to today's topic. Today we're going to be listening to and looking at a collaborative project from 3 virtuosos. Recorded in 1995 after having toured the world the previous year, the trio of Stanley Clarke on double bass, Meola on acoustic guitars, and Jean-Luc Ponty on violin created one of the finest examples of acoustic jazz fusion ever to be recorded and released. The album is entitled The Rite of Strings. The snippet I just played is from the track entitled Song to John, which is dedicated to John Coltrane, widely revered around the world as one of the greatest jazz saxophonists to ever have played the instrument or performed. The song was originally written by Stanley Clarke with Chick Corea for Stanley Clarke's 3rd solo album entitled Journey to Love, which was released in 1975. I chose this portion of the song for the snippet because it provides a glimpse at the virtuosity of these gentlemen within the roughly 1-minute confines that I have for these sound snippets that I use in the video. This snippet kicks off with a wonderful bit of all 3 playing together in the same progression, and then we get a little bit of each playing just a tiny little bit of a solo before they return to harmonizing and playing the same progressive riff on the song. Now for a bit of info about the people involved. Stanley Clarke is a bassist who's been performing since the late 1960s. He's credited with giving the bass guitar more prominence in the field of jazz music than it had ever been given before, and he really is one of the outstanding and bright and shining stars for the bass guitar in jazz music as well as in music in general. He's recorded and performed on many amazing albums. He's collaborated with so many musicians it's hard to name them all, which is something I'll be saying again about both Meola and Jean-Luc Ponty. So please forgive me for repeating myself, but he really is one of these great performers in the field of bass guitar, and not just in jazz or jazz fusion, but reaching across into rhythm and blues, funk, and also he has recorded a number of film scores. Clarke has also received 3 Grammy Awards for his solo work and 2 other Grammys for his collaborative efforts. I believe they were with Return to Forever. Meola is a guitarist who is known for his fusion and world music recordings. He has been playing since he was young. He was born in New Jersey, my home state, which I'm always proud to mention, and he joined with Stanley Clarke in Chick Corea's Return to Forever in 1974. He was only 19 years old at the time, a very young man at that point, and he was a prodigy. He had attended the Berklee School of Music in Boston, and in 2018 he was awarded an honorary doctorate of music from Berklee. So he's another very widely regarded as outstanding musicians in the arena of guitar and jazz music. And even Steve Vai, who is broadly considered one of the great guitarists in rock and metal music, has said of Meola, every one of his notes explodes. Jean-Luc Ponty is a French-born violinist who began his career in the late 1950s. His debut solo album was recorded in 1964 and released the same year when he was just 22 years old. He recorded on more than 50 albums during his career in music, and the list of collaborators is really far too great. He's collaborated with so many, but a few that I will mention would be one, his 1970 album entitled King Kong. Jean-Luc Ponty plays the music of Frank Zappa, and that was composed entirely by Frank Zappa and released in 1970. And also he was a player on Elton John's 1972 album, Honky Chateau. So he's had quite a career, and there are just, as I said, far too many for me to try and list. But he has contributed to such a broad range of music and styles. He's gone beyond the world of jazz and fusion into, classical and rock. So he really has bridged so many different areas of music and genres of music. He's hard to peg down, but frankly, he's brilliant, and his style of playing really stands out and is a unique performance style which allowed him to elevate the violin in the jazz arena really to a level that nobody had thought that it could possibly reach. He has not, as far as I could find, received any Grammy Awards, but he has had a number of charting and gold records released over his career. So I would highly recommend, for instance, the album Enigmatic Ocean, one of my favorites, and it's one that I've been long considering making a video about, and I may still do so in the future, as it is a solo release and would be different from this collaborative effort herein discussed. Returning to the music itself, the next snippet I'm going to play for you is from the song entitled Morocco, which was written by Meola. Finding clips to highlight each of their abilities was really something that was no easy feat here on an album that is roughly 56 minutes long and is comprised of 9 tracks, 3 written by each of the 3 players. There are parts of each song for each musician to shine, but snagging a snippet that had all of them involved and gave you a chance to get a feel for the playing of them all together really was difficult. Their solos tend to be longer than the snippets that I generally pick out for each of the videos that I make. So I really was a little bit hard pressed to find just the right snippets, but I think the selections that I made here represent pretty well the sounds that you'll hear in general on the album. The album itself is pretty much a world music and Mediterranean music influenced jazz fusion album, albeit entirely acoustic. And generally I think people think of electric instruments when they think of fusion, but the composition style and the arrangements of the music are in keeping with the fusion element. They do have a firm setting in fusion. So it is an interesting album and stands out from the pack, if you would, for that reason. During their world tour in 1994, which preceded the recording of the album itself, they did happen to stop in Montreux for its annual jazz festival, and that performance was captured on film and ultimately released by Eagle Vision on DVD. I purchased it in the late 2000s, so I'm assuming it was released sometime in that period. This is one of those rare albums that I really believe deserves a 5 out of 5 stars. Clarke, Ponty, and Meola play at the peak of their excellence on this recording. All of the songs are vibrant and alive, and they come across in such a way that is as impactful now as it was when it was released in 1995. The production and mixing are fantastic. The levels are roomy enough to allow the depth of the double bass to really come through very strong and clear, as well as allowing the highs of the violin and acoustic guitar to be very bright and come through with a sharpness to them that is very strong and distinct in its sound. There is a wonderful completeness to this collection of songs. So I really feel that it is worthy of your time and attention. This is an album that when it was released in 1995, much as the album that I discussed last week from Overkill, I played this album practically solely this album and listened to it constantly for months after its release. It was just so impactful in my life for its incredible performances, and the compositions are just so engaging and mesmerizing that it brings you into it. I can't recommend it strongly enough, but I do have to caveat that with the fact that I couldn't find this album in iTunes. Not at least the iTunes store for Taiwan doesn't have it available. Maybe it's available from the Apple Music or iTunes in the United States or wherever you happen to be watching this video. I couldn't find it on Spotify. Amazon does have the album. They credit it to Al Di Meola, but it is available for physical copy purchase. I'm not sure if it's available for digital download. Also, I did find it through other resources, but finding it is not an easy thing. Although if you go to Discogs, that was probably the easiest place to get it, and that was listed. You just search the Discogs site for The Rite of Strings, and you'll find the listing for this album. Probably it'll be the first one to pop up on the search list. So if you're looking to obtain a copy of this album, you'll probably have to do so via second-hand availability option. The digital download doesn't seem to be an option for this album, but I think it's worth your time and effort to try to find this album. It's an amazing recording, and truly a glimpse into the extraordinary musicianship of these three individuals. You should also consider exploring their own solo recordings. They have had incredible careers, all three of these gentlemen, and they are among my favorite musicians outside of the heavier music that I listen to. I have so much passion for this music as well. So I hope that you enjoyed the snippets that I played, and I hope you'll consider giving The Rite of Strings by Meola, Stanley Clarke, and Jean-Luc Ponty a consideration. And thank you for your time and attention. Until next time, peace, be well, bye-bye.